In the 1920s, a group of engineers met in secret. They wanted to guarantee that light bulbs would burn out faster. The reason is to ensure people always need to buy more. This shaped countless industries for decades. Their motto? Make, break, buy. Make, break, buy. Have you ever wondered why gadgets like mobile devices often seem to give up on you and stop working after a year or two? In the past, longevity was seen as a selling point with most products, but today, that seems to be something nobody thinks about. The truth is that this sort of business model has been used for a long time. Today, as millions of us chuck away perfectly usable gadgets each year, the biggest question that demands is, why are our products designed to fail? The hidden economics of obsolescence explains everything. This is Maya, and her story is surely a relatable one. She walks over to her laptop in a dark study, the first rays of sunlight shining through the blinds, with a cup of coffee in hand. She opens up her laptop, and where the screen would usually light up the room, nothing. For the third time in just 5 years, her laptop had just failed. No warning, no explanation. Panic sets in. Not only does Maya need a computer for her work, but she also immediately remembers the last time. The need to fix her device to keep up with looming deadlines, the repair shop only being able to quote for a new motherboard, costing almost as much as a new laptop, and the massive outlay for a new machine. The old one thrown into the landfill. Maya wonders, like most of us do, when we rely so heavily on electronic devices for work, for play, and even to socialize, why do they always seem to die so young? The shocking truth here is that this isn't an accident or a byproduct of some other aspect of the design process. It's totally by design, and we are all conned into believing it's just a fact of life. Why? This all goes back around a century. It's been going on for so long now that it just feels like the norm. But there was once a time when consumer goods were designed to last forever. It all changed thanks to the humble light bulb. The origins of this planned obsolescence can be traced back to a world desperate for economic revival. In the early 20th century, as factories grew larger and consumer goods started becoming more affordable and made their way into more homes, a new challenge hit businesses hard. What happens when people stop needing to buy new things? The first industry to be hit by this new issue was lighting back in the 1920s. As technology improved, bulbs that burned out in just a year could now last up to 2,500 hours before they failed. That sounds like an improvement to be proud of, but the powerful men running Europe and America's lighting empires quickly realized that having an improved product would lead to the whole industry collapsing. If people didn't need to replace light bulbs as often, sales would plummet, and the only sales would be first-time sales. These men knew something had to be done. In 1924, in a smoky back room in Geneva, executives from the world's leading light bulb manufacturers held a meeting with a single objective: to work out a way to limit how long their products would last. That's right, they wanted to make their products objectively worse. They formed the Phoebus Cartel, a secret global syndicate that agreed to cap the lifespan of their bulbs at precisely 1,000 hours. Companies whose bulbs burned for longer were punished with fines. For decades, this arrangement guaranteed steady sales and locked out rivals who dared promise more value to the public. Interesting that this idea first emerged in the light bulb industry, given that the light bulb has always been a symbol for good ideas. However, what started with the humble light bulb was only the beginning. And if we go back to Maya, stressing in her kitchen over a laptop that simply does not last, you can see the similarities. But in her case, it's not a simple light bulb. The situation has evolved, and now it's hundreds or even thousands of dollars for laptops, phones, tablets, or any other gadget. Take your pick. Whether it carries the logo of Apple, Amazon, Google, or Microsoft, I'm sure you, like Maya, have shelled out money year on year to replace at least one of your gadgets. Not because the technology can't last, but because it simply isn't built to stick around. The first higher ticket industry to go the way of obsolescence was one of the biggest of all, the vehicle industry. By the late 1920s, the American automobile market was heading towards saturation. People who'd bought their first car seemed in no rush to replace it. Same problem as the light bulb one, only this time a bigger, more costly product. This could have been disastrous. General Motors, under the shrewd leadership of Alfred P. Sloan, decided to turn this problem into an opportunity. Instead of engineering cars to last, Sloan introduced the idea of dynamic obsolescence, releasing new models each year. Not because improvements were necessary, but to try and tempt customers with the thrill of the latest thing. Sound familiar, smartphone users? Apple, Samsung, and Google have made an annual event out of launching their new phones, with minimal, sometimes pointless, improvements. Yet, we still seem to want the newest, shiniest mobile devices, and funnily enough, our old ones don't seem to last very long. If you think back to the earlier Nokia devices that dominated the early 2000s, they were famed for being almost indestructible. Things haven't always been this way. The modern shift was cemented by companies like Apple, which revolutionized the market not just with sleek design, but by making the device itself less user-repairable and more of a sealed, seasonal fashion statement, directly applying the lessons learned from General Motors decades earlier. Back to the cars. And the new focus on making the latest GM car a fashion statement item helped the company surpass Ford, which stuck with their stubborn old-fashioned approach of focusing on durability and affordability. Now, last year's GM vehicle felt old. It wasn't, of course, but that's how it felt, meaning people wanted this year's model. GM was able to continue selling vehicles at a far faster rate, and Ford was, for now at least, left in the dust. It sounds like some sort of economic witchcraft, a dark art that's some sort of secret lost to the ages. But what if this boardroom strategy became official government policy? For a brief moment during the Great Depression, it almost did. In 1932, as the Great Depression ravaged families and fortunes across the Western world, the idea of planned obsolescence was close to becoming public policy. A little-known real estate broker named Bernard London published a pamphlet titled "Ending the Depression Through Planned Obsolescence." London's vision was an extreme one: make every product, shoes, cars, radios, be assigned a set lifespan, and then tax anyone who kept using them for too long. Imagine everything coming with an expiry date, like food does today, and having to pay a fine if you don't replace it by that date. It sounds crazy, and in reality it was a pretty crazy idea, but it would have kickstarted the economy at a time when everything was grinding to a halt. People would be forced to buy new things, and factories would roar back into life. Perhaps thankfully for the boardrooms and moguls that would continue to use the idea for decades to come, outside of policy circles, London's idea barely resonated. The idea of planned obsolescence was still a secret kept from the wider public and from some corporations. If London had managed to get his ideology into the mainstream, it's possible the modern consumer wouldn't accept buying a new phone every other year when their old one from their favourite brand simply stops working. If she really understood obsolescence, would Maya continue buying computer after computer with an Apple or HP on the front? Or would she do some hard research and find a laptop built to last from another manufacturer? Interesting to think about, isn't it? Sadly, Bernard London's idea never went anywhere, and obsolescence remained a trick of the trade in boardrooms around the world. In 1939, chemical giant DuPont didn't get the memo either. They released a new product, nylon stockings, that were, by all accounts, nearly indestructible. They became a sensation. The very first batch actually caused riots at some department stores. On the surface, a product launch like that sounds ideal, but DuPont's execs quickly realized that if these tights were so hard-wearing they barely needed to be replaced, the early surge in sales would soon fizzle out and collapse. So, they decided the tights were too good, and they quietly instructed their engineers to redesign the thread, making sure that the stockings would develop ladders and runs after just a few wears. After the Second World War, planned obsolescence became an economic buzzword. By the 1950s, industrial designers like Brooks Stevens preached obsolescence as a public good. In his view, to generate constant demand, products needed to be made a little newer, a little better, a little sooner than is necessary. This slowly became the norm, with advertising campaigns pushing the message, why settle for the old when this new one is brighter, better, and faster? It's a ruthless but effective economic strategy. But the question remains, is it malicious, or is it just a necessary evil to keep industries alive? As minimizing durability became a design principle across more and more products, the sums of money spent on replacement soared. Repair shops also grew into businesses people relied on. If you can't afford to replace your obsolete item, you might as well pay someone else to repair it at a lower cost. In a world still reeling from depression and a global conflict, facing technological leaps and fears of stagnating sales, many business and political leaders saw little choice. Shortening a product's life was the engine of progress, generating growth, jobs, and riches across the economy. Still, not every designer and engineer liked the idea of working in this way, and there have always been pockets of resistance, companies and individuals vying to manufacture products that are built to last. If Maya looks hard enough, she might just find the Holy Grail, a computer that can stand the test of time. But it won't be easy. Planned obsolescence is the mainstream, and it's making rich people get even richer. So it isn't going anywhere, but it is hurting people every single day. And slowly but surely, it's helping to destroy the planet. For Maya, on an individual level, planned obsolescence isn't even a term she's heard of. Still, she feels the pain over and over again. She finds herself standing at the counter of her local repair shop, receipt in hand, facing the same weary technician's verdict. Sorry, that part's more expensive than a whole new device. That's the other side of this economic vice grip. Parts are often priced so high that the only option is to buy a new device, vehicle, or gadget over fixing your broken one. Over the years, the tally grows between phones, a laptop that refused to boot, a washing machine with a warranty that expired just before the motor burned out, also far from a coincidence. Each time, she feels a little more powerless. In her mind, it's all just bad luck, but in reality, she's being manipulated into helping boost numbers on screens half a world away in some boardroom. Why aren't things built to last, she wonders, as most of us do frequently. It isn't just financial stress, it's that feeling of being forced to discard your property and replace it time and time again. It isn't just the personal consequences for people like Maya either. All those dead laptops, phones, and other devices simply join the seemingly endless stream of e-waste piling up around the world. Each device cast aside in favor of a new one means new minerals torn from deep beneath the earth by mines that scar valleys, forests that fall to make packaging and those huge instruction booklets, and rivers that run thick with waste runoff, putting poisonous chemicals where they absolutely should not be. Killing wildlife by killing habitats, and making life harder for those living around factories, usually in parts of the world where life was far from easy to begin with. The emissions from this constant cycle of manufacturing add to a warmer climate, making the invisible cost behind obsolescence clear for all to see. Make, break, buy. Make, break, buy. It isn't just electronics. Fast fashion is another big example of planned obsolescence and how it can hurt the planet. Garments are cheaply made to match fleeting trends, worn only a few times and rapidly discarded. The industry is the world's second largest consumer of water and generates 20% of global industrial wastewater, mainly from dyeing and textile production. Creating just one pair of jeans can require up to 10,000 litres of water. Water sources are literally running dry in some parts of the world to prop up this industry. Planned obsolescence isn't a widely understood idea, and yet it's one of the biggest contributors to climate change. It all sounds so bleak, but there is hope. Light on the horizon as people try to fight back. In fact, a growing resistance has really started to take shape. More and more ordinary people are refusing to accept a world designed for waste. Among them are right-to-repair activists like Maya. After her latest laptop breakdown, she had had enough. She did some research and joined an online community, pushing for laws that force manufacturers to make devices easier to fix. Globally, the resistance has led to famous lawsuits and important policy reforms around the world. Campaigns in the US and in Europe have pressed some governments to pass right-to-repair laws. These new regulations require companies to provide spare parts and repair manuals, challenging well-established business models built on obsolescence. The fight is just getting started, and if you think giants of industry like Apple and Google are going to take this lying down, you're mistaken. They're using all their pulling power to find legal loopholes and influence policy to slow progress. It isn't just campaigners. Some entrepreneurs are going against the grain, seizing the opportunity and designing products meant to last decades, or that are easier to upgrade and mend at least. Companies like Fairphone have demonstrated viable alternatives, proving repairability and sustainability can coexist with profitability. Still, these pioneers often face an uphill climb against the entrenched interests and consumer habits shaped by decades of disposability. Not to mention being a new name in a sea of well-established and household name brands like Samsung, Apple and Google. This means that people like Maya do have options. It isn't like it was 10 years ago. Sure, you might need to do a little digging, but if you read up on what you're buying, you might just find that a small startup is willing to sell you an item that is built to last, not fail after 1 or 2 years. This is a growing battle that is barely getting started, but the resistance is really starting to take shape as consumers like Maya get sick and tired of playing the same game over and over again. So, that said, where are we today, and what does the future look like? After all, if we keep up the current cycle of replace, repeat, the planet will very soon have its own expiry date. Today, the choices we make can change the future. We stand at a fork in the road. In one direction, more of the same, a steady churn of short-lived products, mountains of waste, and escalating environmental crises. In the other direction, a new vision. Conscious consumers who demand durability, repairability, and sustainability. It might not be winning right now, but some companies are thriving. Fairphone, which we mentioned earlier, proves that phones don't have to be expensive to repair and can be cheaply fixed by anyone willing to follow simple instructions. Patagonia is just one conscious fashion brand, aiming to produce clothing that can be worn for years, not just while it's the hot new thing. Their sustainable business model focuses on the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit. They prioritize durable, repairable products made from recycled and organic materials, designed to last for years rather than seasons. The company runs the Worn Wear program, offering free repairs and promoting second-hand sales to extend product life cycles. Companies like this prove that business models built around lasting products and circular economies can thrive. Retail giants have also started to experiment with leasing and refurbishment, trying to bring balance between profit and planet. But the stakes couldn't be higher. If current trends continue, cities will drown in e-waste. Water reserves will dry up, and carbon emissions will spiral, locking future generations into environmental disaster. The economic cost to families like Maya's will mount as endless replacements drain household budgets and cause growing levels of distrust. Imagine a world where devices last decades, where repair shops flourish in every neighborhood, and where waste is designed out of the system. Imagine cities free from toxic dumps, rivers running clear, and consumers empowered with choice and knowledge. This is the world the Resistance fights for, and the vision companies embracing repairability pursue. For Maya, who stood staring at a blue screen of death, it all felt urgent and very personal. She vows to only invest in products built to last, and to support campaigns demanding corporate accountability from now on. The future of obsolescence isn't written yet. Like Maya, the future depends on all of us, because the future of what we buy and what we leave behind depends on the actions we take today. The power to rewrite obsolescence is in all our hands. We have to raise our voices against planned obsolescence. Otherwise, a century later, we still ask the same question. Why do our gadgets seem to fail after just a year or two? The next time you're about to buy a new device, ask yourself, is this built to last or built to fail?